Welcome to Light Logic, the podcast that discusses everything you need to know about low voltage lighting. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. You're listening to Light Logic.
Hey everyone, this is Dr. Tom. Thank you for joining me today on our Tech Talk Light Logic podcast. Today we had the pleasure of having Jason Shanabarger, District Sales Manager for Unique Lighting System, talking about all things home automation and a little bit of technical and what's out there and what's offered. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Hey everyone, thank you for joining us on Tech Talk today. Today we have Jason Shanabarger joining us. He's the DSM, District Sales Manager for Unique Lighting System. Thank you, Jason, for joining us on our podcast.
Appreciate you having me on, Tom. It's a pleasure to be here. So, the technology has certainly evolved over the last 10 or 15 years with control systems, and we've come a long way from where we started with photocells.
Oh, yeah. Photocells, timers.
Yeah, the basic appliance timers, $8 cheapies that people use. I've replaced hundreds of both of those. Don't care to ever really use those again, but they do get a job done to a certain extent. But I don't know about you, but I probably see more photocells fail than any other product in our industry, as far as a timing device goes. So,
Sure.
the appliance timers always, the pins break or the teeth, realign, whatever. So, a lot of people using them, but not the best in my opinion.
No, they're just a mechanical timer. I mean, there are going to be a lot of wear parts inside of them. And I remember the days coming from old school when our options were photocells, timers, or going to X10 Pro.
Oh my goodness, bringing up some old stuff here.
Good old X10 Pro was more than a nightmare.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Well, it was like X10 works on wavelengths of power, and you're trying to communicate on a constant. So having that alarm clock module on next to the nightstand, it just wasn't a pretty piece, and
No.
with that faux wood grain on there and everything.
It looked like the Magnavox AM FM radio sitting next to your bedstand, from the 1970s.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Well, and then we've evolved from that to the ABT system, like the had the key fob. I don't know if you ever used those, but
I tried to stay away.
Yeah, those things look like a car key fob, and trying to zone the lights or turn the lights on and off, and it was always having challenges communicating, much like X10 was having challenges communicating throughout the system. So and then I know people switched into astronomical timers, and then they had their own challenges with even programming them. You had to be a nuclear scientist to figure out how to program them.
We get calls today on that. People call us all the time, and they think the timer is manufactured by Unique, because it's in the transformer.
Sure.
And I tell people, a contractor can put hundreds of timers in a transformer. I need to know who made it in order to find a manual to help you. But yeah, they're not very easy to program. Not at all.
No.
It's like programming an irrigation controller.
Well, that's for sure. And then, I know with direct burial transformers, people sometimes use those external intermatic timers. And
yes,
of course, those are digital, but in my experience, digital components out in the humidity and in the weather don't survive long. So,
no.
Always creating issues there too. So, we've definitely come a long way from that. Then there's been some people that have come out with some Bluetooth timers. Of course, Bluetooth has its challenges of range limitations, not always communicating perfectly. you know, and then
Well,
what?
I always thought that was funny is people will call in and ask that question about, well, why don't you have one of these, these little devices you just plug in and you turn it on and off with Bluetooth? Well, I would tell them you can't set schedules. It's literally an on and off device. And if, a lot of our jobs we get on, there could be 10 or 12 transformers. Are you going to walk around to 10 or 12 transformers trying to turn that on? With Bluetooth technology, you got
No,
to be right on top of it.
no, that's for sure.
The everything has its place, in where it's created and what it's for. Like those little modules are great inside your home if you just want to turn on and off a lamp, but it's not really suited for professional outdoor lighting.
Oh
And
yeah, absolutely.
the
Well,
industry's changed dramatically from what we were limited to in the past. I mean, I have to tell you this. I got to tell you this. I was working on a job, and I won't mention addresses or people or places, but every time that they would control the X10, it would turn the TV off. And the
oh yeah.
X10 rep told us, well, you need an amplifier. And so that
Hmm.
was a whole major thing, put in an amplifier because you got to put it in the power panel on the house.
Right.
So we did that. And once we boosted up the power, the TV issue went away. But then when the lights would turn on, the front electric gates would open. They
Mhm.
were operated by radio frequency and they would
All
open.
the different
It
frequencies. Yeah.
it was crazy the hoops you had to jump through to make things work. And I have people ask me a lot about like Jandy systems now. Pool systems will control
Mhm.
lighting,
Yep.
and
Omni is another one.
that's
Yeah,
it's a whole nother ball game. It's a whole
absolutely.
nother realm. You're basically using relays, 24-volt relays from the Jandy systems to turn on high voltage outlets. So,
Right.
they work, they're great if you're going to put all your transformers in that location next to that system and have those relays turning on
Sure.
the power, providing you got an electrician doing it. So, we always look for what's an easy solution. What's a solution that works and I can do it.
Right.
I like to walk out and plug things in. I don't want to have to call up 8 contractors to stand behind me to make this work, electricians and things like that.
For sure.
So,
Yeah.
what do you
It,
think about modern technology? What would you suggest?
well, I mean, there's some Wi-Fi systems out there that, work okay, but again, Wi-Fi outside the home may not be really strong without a
Mhm.
relay or without a booster of some sort.
Right.
So, you know, I like the cloud-based timers.
Mhm.
There's a lot of them out there, but the cloud-based timers allow you that functionality to program it when you want and have uh, phone control. Everybody's got a smartphone nowadays and tablet and communicating with those devices.
Yeah.
And because there's an app for that, right? Everybody's got an app for that.
Yep.
And sometimes multiple apps. And I'm seeing a lot of people go to a smart home technology of like a Control 4 or Questron or Lutron type systems where everything's on a tablet in the house
Mhm.
and they can control the TV, the lights, the garage door opener, whatever, all from a single device.
Mhm.
And definitely seeing a lot of demand for that. Of course, the Smart Logic products are great, communicating with 900 megahertz radio frequency, giving you that reliability instead of just having to rely on wavelengths of power like with the X10 or
Yeah.
key fobs with that you have to keep up with the ABT systems and whatnot. So definitely prefer that cloud-based technology and a huge fan of the home integration, but
Well,
that's the way it's
I
shifting
look at it too by simplicity of
for
like
sure.
Lutron and things like that. When I was doing lighting, that's like a whole nother ball game. You got to
Oh,
really deal with
absolutely.
that stuff and work with that stuff to understand it. Where I like something that you pretty much can get out of a box, and it's pretty straightforward. I'm not dealing with high voltage. Some of those
Sure.
Lutron systems, you got to actually put outlets in
Yes.
that are controlled, and I have to say, when I think about things like smart logic, the cost effectiveness too is,
Oh, absolutely.
it's a deal. And I was pretty bedazzled when I first got it, because I like the fact that I could set a schedule like irrigation. I could say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I want it to turn off at, say, 9:30 or 10 o'clock. But then I could create a custom schedule for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's like you have all this flexibility,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
if there's a problem, you almost can go right on your phone or right on your laptop, and you can figure out what's going on, what's working, what's not working. And as a benefit to our customers in the field too, they can call into Unique Lighting and actually have me or another tech actually look at their account and see what's going on, how things are functioning. And that connectivity, that cloud-based system is just awesome, because,
Yeah. And,
you know,
and having that support structure in place is fantastic.
yeah,
Being able to dial in see what the temperature is of that transformer. If that transformer is getting way too hot, we can diagnose it through the Smart Logic app. I love that.
You should elaborate on that, because I don't think a lot of people realize that our LPCUAs actually monitor and check temperature. They actually tell you what the temperature is.
So lighting transformers will run warm, during operation, because of the electricity passing around the coil. But, there's a certain operating range, and it's typically anywhere from 80 to about 85, 88, somewhere in that range is pretty normal operating temperature. But if it's spiking to, 100, 110, we can see certainly what's going on with that transformer, and, contact a contractor or a homeowner and say, shut that thing down before it causes an issue. And then,
well, I want to bring up one point that you got to consider, and I've had this happen before with technical, when people call in and they're worried. Just imagine this. If you go out on a very hot day, the sun's been out, if you ever want to buy one of those little cheap temperature lasers, you can aim it at something, it'll tell you the temperature. If you go out and lay your hand on the hood of your car, especially if it's a dark color,
it's going to be hot.
It would be like, wow. So you always have to consider too ambient temperature.
Sure.
The operating temperature of a transformer may be in that realm at night in the dark in a closed garage. But I don't want to scare anyone and think that just because they walk out and that transformer, you touch it and it's like, I can't keep my hand on it. That's not abnormal. You can have one get very, very hot. And keep in mind, that's in the daytime. It's not even turned on.
Right.
So I just like to bring that up, because some transformers are potted, whether it's a Unique transformer or other manufacturers. The coil is actually potted in the case to dissipate heat. So those kind of transformers will naturally feel much warmer when they're in operation than a vented transformer. So I would tell someone, if it's not cooking your biscuits in the oven, if it's 125 degrees or something, that could be easily ambient temperature. Don't worry about it. It's just don't freak out. It's not going to set the house on fire.
Right.
The other thing is too, just keep in mind, we have circuit breakers, as with most companies. And if you ever have a bad short or something, it's going to trip the breaker off.
Absolutely.
It's not going to set the house on fire. Unless I wired it.
Yeah. Well, and even going back to some of our older transformers with the slow blow fuses, I've had people that have put the wrong size fuse in there and cause issues, or try to replace the fuse with a paper clip or something, and that doesn't work. So if it has a slow blow fuse in it, you need to replace it with a slow glow fuse. If it has a resettable circuit breaker, you need to identify what's going on with it with a proper amp meter and,
Sure.
do some troubleshooting on those devices. So, yeah, it certainly makes a difference. And having a efficient system that is easily communicated with, to me, as a DSM, being able to offer things like that to the distributors and to the contractors, teach them about how to use a voltmeter and how to read the readings on the transformer. It's critical in making the system last for a lifetime.
Sure. I don't want to get too far in the weeds with amp probes and voltmeters and all, because we were talking about controls. But a good point is, in talking about heat, is if anyone hooks up, 20 lights on a line, and you take the common wire and you just touch it, just barely touch it to the common on the transformer, or touch it to the lug, just barely touch it, what you'll notice is you can almost get that connection point sparking and get it red hot. And this is what people need to understand. Amperage causes heat. So when you have a wire nut melt or you have a lug melt, it's because that wire wasn't tight. So just
always make sure
I'm that guy that when I
connections
hear
tight.
something, I got to say something about it, just because we're here to help,
Well, absolutely.
And people, when they have something like that, it kind of scares them. It's like, why did it do that? Make sure all your connections are super tight or super tight in the lugs, and learn how to use an amp probe and a voltmeter. That's what makes you the doctor. No guessing.
Well, it's probably one of the most critical tools that I carry in my tool bag. And
absolutely.
When I get calls from contractors saying, hey, my lights are doing this or they're not doing that or whatever, first question out of my mouth is, what's your voltage? What's your amperage? And yeah, I left my voltmeter in my other truck. Well, sorry.
My favorite answer is, what's the voltage?
Yeah.
120.
Yeah.
I'll say it's exactly 120. Yes, it's exactly 120. Okay.
Yeah. Power's not always perfect, and it does fluctuate throughout the day. So especially if it's near HVAC equipment or pool equipment. So, getting back to that Jandy transformer or the Omni, pool equipment, where you're putting the lighting into the wiring and transformer into that component, again, that can fluctuate throughout the day. It can affect your outgoing voltage and cause issues. So,
sure.
Yeah. Well, I certainly appreciate our talk today. Great talk. If you guys have questions, please reach out to us at Unique Lighting Systems. We'll be happy to help you with troubleshooting, installation, designs, whatever you need. So thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to Light Logic. We want to hear from you. Would you like to be featured on Light Logic? Email us at info@uniquelighting.com.